Welcome to the February MOSIS Core Data webinar. Today's webinar will cover the basic information related to the current reporting for the February cycle in relation to MOSIS and Core Data. We also want to share a few MOSIS updates for you to keep in mind as we get closer to the end of the year June cycle data. And then we want to allow plenty of time at the end of the presentation for questions. For the February Student Core, this file is going to include PK through 12 students that were enrolled or were a member as of the last Wednesday in January. So for this count date for this file, it will be tomorrow on January 29th. This file determines the membership and state free and reduced lunch counts that populate Core Data Screen 15. For a student to be a member, they must be enrolled on the count date and in attendance one of the 10 prior school days to the count date. As a reminder, the 1 prior 10 field is reported within if the student was in attendance one of the 10 prior days to the count date. So that field is a little bit backwards. So for a student to be counted for membership, you're going to have a Y in the enrolled on count date field, and you're going to have an N in the 1 prior 10 field. Also, just a quick reminder, if you have PK students that are in a morning or afternoon PK program, ensure you are reporting them with the appropriate PKA or PKP student grade level. The second MOSIS file reported in February is the Student Graduate Follow-Up file. It is collected for both high school and post-secondary adult students. It collects one record for each student reported as graduating the previous year. This file also includes students reported as an IEP dropout or a CTE concentrator GED dropout. For Perkins purposes, you need to include any of the comprehensive high school graduates plus post-secondary CTE students who earned a degree or certificate and adult CTE students as well. Information from the follow-up file populates Core Data Screens 8, 26, 27, and 29. We sent a listserv memo last week notifying you of the opening of the February cycle, as well as it had information for today's webinar. In that memo was mention of the pre-recorded webinar that was completed specific to the February graduate follow-up information. If you have not already reviewed that webinar, we would recommend watching it to review in more depth the reporting for the graduate follow-up information as it relates specifically to career education, MSIP, and special education. This slide includes the topics that are addressed in the recorded webinar. We would also like to mention that the Office of Quality Schools will be posting additional information regarding calculations for APR February follow-up on students that are employed. This information will be located on their website under Accountability Data and Annual Performance Report no later than Friday, February 7th. And we can also include that link for you guys later in this presentation. Okay, so we have covered the MOSIS files that are reported in February. Here is a list of the core data screens that are required in the February cycle as well. Most of these are populated by the MOSIS submissions upon certification. There are a few, though, that require manual entry. So going down the list here, Screen 8 is populated by the MOSIS February Graduate Follow-Up file. The bottom portion of the screen is where you will see the follow-up data. Screen 15 is populated by the Student Core file and includes information on the free reduced lunch for the state FTE count for the K-12 resident students. Screen 15 also has a portion at the top for the homeschool student count that you will need to manually enter onto the screen. Screen 16 is populated by the student core file and includes the January membership information as of the count date, which is tomorrow's date for the count date. Screens 26, 27, and 29 are all populated by the graduate follow-up file and are related to the follow-up data. Screen 35 is a manual entry screen that you will complete for this December 31 fund balance data. And then screen 37 is used to collect data related to the opening of a new charter school or expansion of enrollment in a charter school. The information on this screen is used for allocations of federal grant funds under ESEA and IDEA, and that is for the charter LEAs to manually enter. Next, we are going to cover a few updates to keep in mind for the upcoming end of the year June reporting. We are currently finalizing these updates to include in our documentation for you to reference, but we want to go ahead and make you aware of them. For the June discipline file, there will be a new discipline offense type code for e-cigarettes, and that new code is going to be E. There are also 6 new industry recognized credential codes that will be available to be reported in the June student core file. Those are listed here. And then just a reminder that the CTE certificate field along with the credit type field are 2 of our newer fields. The CTE certificate field is in the student core file, and you may have already noticed that field as you've been reporting the student core files throughout this year. It will actually be required in June and reported in June, and then the credit type field is reported in the June student course completion file. Okay, so that covers the basics for the MOSIS files and the core data information. And then as we mentioned on the prior slide, you'll want to review the pre-recorded webinar that is provided out on the website along with the information for today's webinar on our DESE webinar site. And then just a reminder, here is some contact information on the different areas that you can contact us at for the different program areas if you do have questions at any time.